What is up, Mizzou fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, covering your Missouri Tigers. And today I'm here to break down Missouri's 30-23 victory over the Oklahoma Sooners to move to 7-2 on the 2024 season. And my goodness, what a thrilling finish with so many twists and turns. 30-23 is your final score, but would you guys believe that I told you entering the fourth quarter, the score of this game was 10-9 Mizzou? How insane is that? How many twists and turns there were at the end of this game to have a final score of 30-23. I'll be honest, guys. Coming into this game, I was debating whether or not to do a preview. I ended up getting busy and deciding not to do one. I also just didn't feel the juice coming into this game. I really thought that there was a less than 15% chance of winning this game with Drew Pyne at quarterback. I mean, I still thought in the right scenario you could beat Oklahoma just because their offense is so bad, but it was just a matter of whether or not we could put up enough points. And the offense with Drew Pyne exceeded my expectations. I'll be honest, guys, I didn't see a world where Missouri scores 30 points with Drew Pyne at quarterback. Now, of course, you have to credit the defense with one of those touchdowns because Zion Young had the scoop and score that would end up winning the game. But I just didn't see a world where Missouri could score 30 points with Drew Pyne at quarterback, and he proved me wrong, going 14 of 27 for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. And after he settled in, got comfortable in this offense, Mizzou really started to put some drives together. I mean, the beginning was rough, and he looked iffy at best, but he didn't do anything stupid to lose the game. He wasn't turning the ball over. And they were driving before Jamal Roberts fumbled in the fourth quarter on the scoop and score for Oklahoma that put them up by a touchdown with, I think, under 2 minutes left in the game, if I'm remembering correctly. But Drew Pyne honestly looked fine. I was impressed with his performance, thoroughly impressed. It was a gutsy performance, and it was a good win for this team. Yes, Oklahoma isn't very good this year, but this was still a game that everyone had circled on the schedule for a multitude of reasons. Eli Drinkwitz had it scheduled. You know, he mentioned after the game how there were some tweets from the Oklahoma coaching staff over the offseason. We know that Mizzou and Oklahoma have been in some hot recruiting battles over the past couple of years. This is an old rivalry from the Big 12. A lot of Mizzou fans wanted to win this game. There's been a lot of trash talk between the two fan bases, so this is still a game that meant something on the schedule no matter what the records were between the two teams. This is a game that meant something. And I think it's just all the more impressive that you did it with Drew Pyne at quarterback. Yes, Oklahoma is not very good this year, and they've fallen way below expectations. But to beat them with essentially your third-string quarterback because Sam Horn got hurt right before the year, that is a heck of a coaching job, and that is a heck of a performance by this team. It's a gutsy win. And I just cannot be overstated how impressive this win is, all things considered, when you consider the circumstances, not having Brady Cook, just the lack of juice coming into this game. And also, I'm really glad they won just because if they had lost this game, I could have very well seen them finishing 6-6, 7-5, because with Mississippi State still left on the schedule, I mean, you're almost guaranteed an 8-win season now at this point, and that's still a good year, even if it means you don't make the college football playoff, even if it means you didn't reach your goal. Right now, what's important is stacking good seasons, stacking multiple good seasons together, building momentum, bringing in a new recruiting class, trying again next year, giving yourself a shot each year. You want to position yourself to have a shot the next year. And with this win, Mizzou is also still mathematically in the playoff hunt, and Drinkwitz also talked about that after the game. So with this win, you're still mathematically in the playoff hunt. Now, you don't control your own destiny, but you're still in it. But more importantly, even if you don't make the playoff, you're putting yourself in a good position to have a shot next year, because you can still go into transfer portal season with a good record, still with a lot of momentum. And I think, there were a lot of recruits at the game last night. You have to think that was a really enticing environment for them. The atmosphere was absolutely awesome, especially after Zion Young scooped up that ball and scored. I'm not sure I've ever heard Faroe Field that loud. I mean, there was an initial roar when the ball was out after Tristan Newsome knocked the ball out of Jackson Arnold. And then once Zion Young picked it up and everyone knew he was going to score, there was like a second pop from the crowd, and it was unlike anything I've ever seen. But back to really breaking down this game, we'll talk more about the emotional impact and some of the other implications off the field a little bit later. But Mizzou's defense did a really good job, I thought. Now, there were a couple of trick plays in which they got absolutely clowned on, and some of them took some luck on the Oklahoma side, particularly the one where Taylor Tatum, the Oklahoma running back, threw it back to Jackson Arnold. Mizzou was an inch away from stopping that play. There was a defensive lineman, I can't recall who it was, but nearly tipped the ball on the throw back to Jackson Arnold, and then there was another D lineman that nearly was able to tackle Arnold, but got blocked out of the play. That was just a good design play, and it ended up working out. Took a little bit of luck, but I mean, it's like, what can you really do there? Oklahoma came out with some creativity. They knew they needed it because their offense wasn't good enough to win the game outright, just playing normal football. So they had to put some trickery in there. And I'm honestly kind of surprised Mizzou didn't do something similar with Drew Pyne, with how inept he looked the week before. I thought Mizzou would implement a little bit more trickery, for lack of a better term. But look, Mizzou's defense, they did pretty good in this game, all things considered. They only allowed 16 points, really, because 6 of Oklahoma's points, or 7, I should say, came from the Jamal Roberts fumble that Oklahoma scooped and scored. And also, Mizzou's special teams had a complete blunder as well after the defense did initially get the stop. So that was also bad, but I thought the defense played fine. They held Oklahoma to 5 of 15 on third down. Oklahoma went for it on fourth down quite a few times. They were able to convert 3 of 4 on fourth down, but they only averaged 4.1 yards per play. Surprisingly enough, Mizzou actually averaged less yards per play on offense than Oklahoma did, which seems really bad considering how bad Oklahoma's offense is. But man, their offensive line is just bad. And look, Jackson Arnold, he turns the ball over a lot. That's one of the reasons he got benched initially to begin with, and why we saw Michael Hawkins earlier in the season for Oklahoma. But yeah, you got to wonder how much of the blame should be put on Oklahoma's offensive line, because Mizzou's defensive line was absolutely dominating. In fact, if I look at the sack numbers, they don't have them listed on Google Stats, but Oklahoma had 4 fumbles lost in this game. That is almost impossible to do, to have 4 fumbles lost in a game for the one team. One team had all 4 of the lost fumbles in this game. But Tristan Newsom had a sack. Chuck Hicks had a sack. Johnny Walker had half a sack. Zion Young had half a sack. And it felt like Mizzou's defensive line was getting in Oklahoma's backfield pretty much all night. And while defensive end Zion Young ended up getting the game ball from head coach Eli Drinkwitz for this game, I thought the best player on the field for the defense all night last night was Dalen Carnell, by far. He was flying all over the field, and he nearly had a pick 6, but he dropped the ball on a pass defended. Easily could have returned it for a touchdown. But, I mean, he was awesome all night. He was breaking up passes. He was laying the wood with the tackling. I mean, I just was super impressed with Dalen Carnell. And he's had a few games like that this year. Like, he's putting together a really good season. And I think he's setting himself up to be drafted in the NFL draft here relatively soon. And really, when you look at the season as a whole, I've been super impressed with the defense. They've been great this year. The one game, of course, is Texas A&M. But I think at this point, we've all kind of figured out that was the coaches that really dropped the ball there. It's very clear that they only prepared for Marcel Reed. Drinkwitz was even asked about it after that game, about whether or not he prepared for both quarterbacks, and all he did was give credit to Connor Wegman for playing a good game, which tells me everything I need to know. They didn't prepare for Connor Wegman. They set the defense up for failure. Take that game away. This defense has given Mizzou a chance in every single game this season. Even when the offense hasn't been great, the defense has been there to pick up the slack. And we thought the defense was going to be the side of the ball that took a step back this year. Nope, they've been great. Offense is the side of the ball that's taken the step back. And it's been a pretty significant step back, too, which just makes the defense, what they've done, even more impressive. I feel like we'd be giving them even more credit if the offense was actually carrying their weight this year, but unfortunately that just hasn't been the case. But in this game, they came alive in the fourth quarter. They came alive in the second half. Drew Pyne, though still pedestrian stat line. I mean, 3 touchdowns is good, but he was 14 to 27 for 143 yards. But once he did settle in, he kind of just started getting the ball to the playmakers, Theo Weiss and Luther Burden. And once that started happening, good things happen. And that's really something you can't even say for Brady Cook when he was healthy. And like that's been my biggest criticism of Brady Cook is everyone wants to act like there's an alternate universe where Mizzou is undefeated or something with Brady Cook. But Brady Cook, even when he's healthy this year, has been bad. I mean, he's been a big part of the problem, and he struggled to get the ball in the hands of Luther Burden and Theo Weiss. But Drew Pyne, once he got those fundamentals down of getting the ball to the elite playmakers on this team, good things started to happen. Theo Weiss, this game was personal for him. Now, he had under 100 yards, but he had 4 catches for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns, and those 2 touchdowns could not have been bigger. First one, he made something out of nothing on a screen. I believe it was like 3rd and 8. And it was in the red zone. Mizzou really needed to make something happen. Theo Weiss breaks a couple tackles. Boom, touchdown. That was a big one. And then, of course, beautiful ball from Drew Pyne, corner of the end zone. Theo Weiss. There's only a few guys in the country that are making that catch that Theo Weiss made in the corner of the end zone. The size, the athleticism, the awareness to be able to catch that ball, get a foot down in bounds. I mean, that might be one of the best catches we've ever seen inside of Faurot Field. I mean, it was that good. And it's kind of crazy because the stadium crew started lighting fireworks half a second after the ref called it. And I was like, oh, hold on a second. Did he really catch that? But no, he did. Good on the stadium staff for seeing it, I guess, before anyone else did. But that was, amazing catch. Amazing catch by Theo Weiss. And this game was personal for him. Obviously, former player at Oklahoma. He's had some not so nice things to say about them, the way he was treated whenever he was over there. Comes here, sticks it to him. I'm glad he got that moment because he immediately ran to the opposition's sideline, or at least the Oklahoma fans in the stands, and he started talking his trash immediately. And you know what? I'm all for it. Luther Burden was, of course, instrumental in this game. He added another 5 catches for 55 yards. And maybe the biggest play of the game was that absolute moon ball from Drew Pyne down the sidelines. Luther Burden into double coverage is able to make the catch and get down inbounds. And I'm not sure that play works if the defender doesn't trip over himself a little bit, the defender that was in front of Luther Burden. But that was a huge moment in that game. Mizzou probably loses if not for that. And then the running game really was nothing special. And, coming into this game, everyone was like, oh, Mizzou should just run the ball. And you saw it very early on why you can't just run the ball every single play. First of all, Oklahoma's defensive line is actually very good this year. They shut down a lot of plays that were horizontal for Mizzou early. And it forced the offense to start throwing the ball more. I think Drinkwitz and Kirby Moore realized that later in the game, but their best running back yesterday was Jamal Roberts, who had 13 carries for 54 yards, and that was 4.2 yards per carry. Outside of him, though, nobody else averaged even over 3.5 yards per carry. Nate Noel clearly is still laboring from that back injury that he had that has kept him out of the last couple of games. Marcus Carroll, a lot of his carry, he had 1.9 yards per carry, but he was relied upon a lot in short yardage where the play was only designed to get a first down or other. So I can understand that a little bit. And then Jamal Roberts, of course, had the fumble that everyone thought was going to lose us the game, and that would have really tarnished his performance because Jamal Roberts was otherwise good, and it was good to see him break out a little bit. But for a moment there, you thought, oh man, is that all going to be wiped out by possibly the worst play of the game? Because all you had to do on that drive was protect the ball, because Mizzou was in complete control of the game before that scoop and score for Oklahoma. The game was tied, but there was less than 5 minutes left. If Mizzou played everything right, took care of the ball, they could have ran down the clock and kicked a game-winning field goal. Although, some maybe don't like relying on Blake Craig, because Blake Craig actually did miss an extra point in this game. An extra point. He hasn't missed an extra point all year. He's missed some field goals. He's missed some gimme field goals, but he hadn't missed an extra point. He missed an extra point in this game. A situation where a lot of Mizzou fans probably thought we should have went for 2. My opinion, I still would have kicked the point after attempt, because I feel like going for two doesn't do that much for you in that situation. I was okay with the decision. Blake Craig simply just has to make it. You can't really blame the coaches for that. So, look, the script for this game flipped immensely when Jamal Roberts fumbled and Oklahoma took it back. Mizzou puts together a scoring drive, and then Oklahoma is now on the hook to put together a game-winning drive. You have Tristan Newsom knock the ball out of Jackson Arnold's hands. Zion Young picks it up, runs it back, and again, I mean, like, the roar from the crowd in that game was just insane. I've watched that play back over maybe 100 times. And this game is going to go down as the Drew Pyne game. Because even though he wasn't great, his box score statistics don't jump out at you. He did every little thing right in this game. He didn't do anything stupid to lose you the game. And then he really turned it on late. And look, hot take, but I'm going to say it. There were some throws in this game that Drew Pyne made that I don't think Brady Cook can make. Even if he can, it's very rarely. Drew Pyne made a couple of really good throws. And I am at the point now with Drew Pyne where if the second half play from Drew Pyne is the play that we can expect from him moving forward, or if that can be more of a baseline level play for Drew Pyne, then I'm okay if Cook sits if he's not at 100% quite yet. Because if Drew Pyne can just get down the fundamentals of getting the ball to your playmakers, take care of the football. Also, Drew Pyne ran a couple of QB draws in this game that he actually looked pretty effective on. I did not think he had that in him. So, point being, if Brady Cook is not 100% for South Carolina next week, I think I'm okay with Drew Pyne. Now, it's still going to be a challenge. This offense still is going to be tough to watch at points, I'm sure, but they showed that they can put together a competent offense with Drew Pyne in there. It maybe just took a little bit for them to open up the playbook with him in there. I think once they realized that they got to start moving the ball faster if they want a chance to beat Oklahoma, they started taking more chances. They ran some more play action. I thought Drew Pyne looked actually pretty good on the play action. And there was a couple plays, too, where he actually threw a good ball, but it was a drop by Brett Norfleet, or, I'm pretty sure Brett Norfleet dropped a couple. And then he just missed Luther Burden on a deep throw as well. Just missed Luther Burden. But I do think that's a pass that you could see get completed by Drew Pyne from time to time. So my confidence in Drew Pyne has been raised after this game. That is for certain. So exciting game. Maybe one of the most exciting games I've ever seen. Good win. Beating Oklahoma is huge. It's good for recruiting. This is a game that, again, Mizzou and all of its fans had circled at the beginning of the year on the schedule. And the other thing is that despite the fact that you're starting Drew Pyne at quarterback and you're shorthanded at this point in the season, this Oklahoma team is probably one of the worst Oklahoma teams in the last 20, 25 years. So it's like if you couldn't beat Oklahoma this year, when were you going to beat them? Because you needed this one, man. You needed it. This is a good confidence booster. It's a good morale booster. It's momentum for the program. I started talking about it at the beginning, but if you had lost this game, I felt like the potential for going 6-6 or just ending the season completely flat was there. Now everything you want is back on the table. You got through this game with Drew Pyne at quarterback, and now you're back in the playoff hunt. You're back in the college football playoff hunt, mathematically speaking. I saw some people clowning on Drinkwitz for saying that, but he's correct. You're in the hunt. That doesn't mean you're in it. That doesn't mean if the season ended today that you're in the playoff, but you're in the hunt. If there's enough chaos and you win the rest of the games on your schedule, definitely not impossible. If Mizzou is 10-2 at the end of the season, there's a very strong chance they're the last SEC team in at 10-2. Of course, those two losses are going to hurt them, A&M and Bama, just because of how uncompetitive they looked in both of them. But maybe the College Football Playoff Committee gives you a little bit of grace because you were without Brady Cook in that Bama game. But then again, they weren't great even when Brady Cook was in there. I don't know how far these College Football Playoff Committee guys really look into small details like that, but I don't know. Gary Pinkel's on the College Football Playoff Committee, though, so maybe he can pull some strings for us, even though technically he's not allowed to do that. I'm saying that in jest, but yeah, beating Oklahoma, I just don't think it can be overstated how big that is for this program, no matter how bad Oklahoma is, because you're beating the name on the front of the jersey. And this is a rude awakening for Oklahoma in the SEC. They came in here this year and they thought that they were going to run over everybody and they were going to be in contention for the playoff. Brent Venables is probably on the hot seat after this. I know that entire offensive staff is on the hot seat. They're probably going to get fired at the end of the year if not for Brent Venables. But yeah, I just think that this is a really important win because everyone wanted it. A lot of players on this team wanted it. Drinkwitz wanted it. There was spatting between coaches over the offseason, between message boards, Mizzou and Oklahoma fans. And this was the year to beat them. If you weren't going to beat them this year, then it's like, well, when were you going to beat them? Because I don't think Oklahoma's going to be this bad for this long. Although who knows? Maybe they're the new Nebraska. Well, we'll see. But that pretty much wraps up my breakdown of this game. There's so many different moments in this game that you can point to. I'm sure there's a lot of things that I didn't even mention that you guys probably wanting to talk about down in the comments. Big turning points in this game. Every play mattered in this one. Every play mattered. And Tigers come out with the victory. One of the more wild finishes you'll see in college football. So, yeah, Mizzou is 7-2 on the year in the college football playoff hunt. They got South Carolina coming up next week. That'll be a challenge. But look, with Mississippi State still on the schedule, 8 wins is very much the expectation. So at worst, you finish as an 8-win team this year, I think, and that's still a really good spot to be in. Good win, gutsy win, entertaining game, love it. Want to hear from you guys down below what you thought of this game. With all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this, and make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com for more, and I'll see you all in the next one. MIZ.